Hello everyone. So this video is going to walk you through how to complete the assignment for the critical analysis charts. So this is going to be applied for part 1 and part 2. So I'm going to explain both, but they will be done separately. So when you get to the assignment, you're going to see here that you will have to download the chart that's here. It's going to be in Word format, so you'll be able to type directly into the document. So when you get into the document, you are going to see this chart here, okay? So for part 1, we're going to focus on this left-hand side where we're going to fill in the blank. But first, here's what you'll fill out. So the article citation should be the article that you selected to analyze for Essay 2, and that should be done in proper MLA Works Cited. So that way, all you have to do is transfer it to the Works Cited page when it's time to write your essay. So make sure it's in proper format. The next thing you're going to do is write a summary of the article. You should be familiar with how to write summaries already because you currently write summaries for the They Say, I Say text, so it'll be similar to that. Make sure you adhere to proper summary writing. The first thing for part 1 is going to be to complete this. Now, some of you will be able to copy and paste directly from the article because it'll just literally say it. Other times you can just kind of annotate it if you want, or condense it, or just do bullet points. It's up to you. This is more of just identification, so you know what you need to analyze. So this focuses on not necessarily the analysis critique part, but the identification. So what are the parts to the argument? Okay. Now, in order to complete this successfully, it's going to be important to watch the other videos. So number 1, how to identify an argument. Number 2, the definitions of these terms here, so you know exactly what to do, as well as how to potentially break down an argument as well. Okay, so without that, this will be a little challenging to do, so be sure to watch those first. So to complete this left-hand side, the main argument, what is the author's main argument? Keep in mind, if you watch the video, you would know what conclusion does the author want the audience to accept, reasonably so. Okay, so if you ask yourself, what is the overall conclusion that the author wants us to do as readers, that generally is how you identify the main argument. Next is going to be the claims. Remember, claims is synonymous with reasons. Reasons why they feel you can accept this conclusion up here. Okay, so that could be one claim, it could be several. It's going to be important to identify every single one so that way you can analyze correctly. Next is going to be grounds, and keep in mind grounds is not just evidence, but it is a type of evidence. So remember thinking, what grounds are they basing their reasons off of? So again, in the other video, I mentioned that anytime someone's trying to argue with you, they're basing it off of something they've observed, experienced, heard, read, learned. So these are all ways in which authors can provide their grounds, ways that they can support these claims. So what I generally would suggest doing is matching the claims with the grounds. So I would go through each claim and then say and ask myself, well, what are the ways that they're trying to ground that claim or provide evidence for that claim, and list those here. Next is a warrant. So remember that the warrants are unstated assumptions, meaning that what assumptions are being made about the audience. Now, these are things like values, principles, beliefs, right? So if I hypothetically say that my argument or claims that there should be free college tuition, my grounds is that people can't afford college but have a desire to attend college to support society. My warrant would be, or the assumptions that I'm placing on the audience would be, that there is a value in going to college. You would have to ask yourself, is it reasonably acceptable to say that most people, or at least the target audience here, would accept that belief to be true? If so, then you can you'll analyze that here, of course, but you'll just identify what those beliefs are or warrants. Remember, they're often unstated, they're assumed, and so this is what people or authors rely on in order to push their arguments forward. So you might identify what those are. Okay. Next is the appeals. We talk about ethos, pathos, and logos. So here you'll identify how they attempt to appeal using these. Logos logic is already built into this stuff up here. So pathos is emotional appeals. Remember, that can be done through language, examples, storytelling, things like that, and so forth. So definitions, any key terms that you feel are important to define for the argument. Consistency, is there a need for consistency, or is it chaotic? And arrangement. So you'll just fill out as much as you can. Remember, the identification part is so incredibly important because you will not be able to do part 2. So part 2 is going to be your critique. Okay, so that is, you're going to ask critical questions about this stuff. Remember, depending on the argument that you're dealing with, but for most of you, since you're dealing with everyday argumentation and not highly structured logical arguments, you're going to base it off rhetorical situations. So, you know, just because the claims don't necessarily agree with you, they do have a target audience in mind. Your question would be, do they do this well? Do they support their claims logically, rhetorically? If so, how? So don't just say yes or no in here. You'll want to explain yourself because as you watch in the other videos of how to put this essay together, a majority of your essay is you explaining and justifying your critique, and you have to be able to do that. And so I'll be analyzing your paper based off that. So just go through these series of questions. Any analysis that you have, you'll include that. Again, this will be for part 2. I remind you, in order to complete this successfully, be sure to watch the videos. Otherwise, you will struggle and it will be noticeable. If you are struggling with the concepts, you can certainly schedule a time to meet with me if you wish, or you can email me and I can help you and assist you in that process.